I was an Army brat. Martha O'Neill. Dad a military man, Mom a Navy nurse, World War II. I grew up in Fort Benning and was born in Fort Bragg. And that's how I open. Martha. Yeah. She's great. I started off with this. Margot had me over. We were doing a play reading, and she said, we need an extra voice. And I said, don't make, okay, that's fine. I can do that. I don't have to memorize any lines. And we sat, and next thing I know, she's passing out a rehearsal schedule, and they're all going, is Debbie staying? Is she going to be with us? And I'm like, I just came over to read some lines. And then, so I started off with just reading lines and doing the stage reading. And at first I really wasn't connecting with it because it was just so different than what I'm used to. Because I'm used to directing the shows. I haven't been on stage for a long time. And oh my gosh, I fell in love with Martha. And when they were holding auditions for the show, I was actually asked to participate more in helping with directing. And I just said, I really, really want to audition for it. And I auditioned my butt off and got it. And I was just jumping up and down at work. I remember that. But the whole ride, discovering, researching, really getting to know who she was and how she interacted with all the characters. I know I'm not ready for the show to end this next Saturday because I'm going to be very sad. I feel like I'm going to be saying goodbye to a very dear friend that we've been through so much together, and it's
your character.
My character. It's like it's like somebody that I've really gotten to know, and she's just amazing and strong and hard and tough, and I can actually relate to so many things that she's gone through. Obviously not the Vietnam stuff, but so many of her defense mechanisms, so many things. You hear it, you see it all the time, but she is a professional. She is with it, the building up her wall.
So tell me a little bit about the sort of a little bit of maybe the roller coaster of the emotions with this character.
Yeah. Well, Martha starts out, she's very naive, but she's grown up in a military family on the base, born in Fort Bragg, born in Fort Benning, grew up at Fort Bragg. I got those backwards. And she lives military. That's what her life is about. But her mom was a World War II Navy nurse. So her stories were more glamorous. Not that the war, the injuries and all that were glamorous, but she's thinking Florence Nightingale, this is what it's about. She didn't see the horrors. Vietnam vets, the Vietnam soldiers, they were brought in, they were helicoptered in off of the fields fresh with these horrific wounds, something that she would have never even imagined seeing. And so when she first arrives in Nam, and I remember working on these parts, she's all, yeah, show me the hospital, I'm ready, I've got my notes. The scene where she goes and she learns about the hospital and she's having her tour basically to get acclimated, she's all smiles and excitement at the beginning and very, just barely getting into it. She's starting to go, oh my gosh, they were right, I don't have the experience for this. And she's almost in a panic by the time she gets out of it. The beginning of the scene is the last time you see Martha smile until the end of the play.
Tell me about your personal connection with this character.
Just seeing what she goes through, just a lot of the research that I did, and then discovering, the kind of emotions that she would have gone through to feel those so that I can portray it accurately on stage. So I had to think back on some of the crises or some things that happened, horribly in my own life, and how that made me feel, and then magnify it, 100 times from Martha.
So how do you deal with the emotions of, this is an extremely emotional play.
It is.
How do you deal with that on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I don't live it outside of the show, but I have rehearsed it a lot. But I cannot, I really can't do any of my lines without getting choked up. I know just running lines at home, some of the scenes I'll just be kind of going through it, and then I'll just stop and just start crying and go, this is so darn sad. And I mean, it sounds comical, but just when you just really start thinking about it, because in order to act it, you have to envision it, you have to absorb it, you have to be it, and you become that moment, and sometimes it's just really overwhelming. There is a spot and we were just doing a line through tonight. We were just going over lines, not walking the part, just to keep things fresh. And for those, you generally say your lines kind of quickly because you're just making sure they're all cemented in. There was one of the lines that Kelly, she plays Sissy, she said her line. It's near the end of the show after the Tet scene, and she talks about her brother Denny, or excuse me, the character, a dying man who reminds her of her brother Denny, and he doesn't want to die and doesn't want to die. And that line for me, and another similar spot, really hits. I had a brother, Danny, and he was killed in an accident, and it was a very, very bad accident, and it just brings me back there because it was very painful. He and I were very close, and it took a long time for me to get over. And so that's part of, where I started discovering where to find some of those feelings, to get those emotions to come out.
So, given the fact that it's such a sad play covering really horrible circumstances, why is it important for people to see this?
Oh my goodness. It is a sad play, but it is written in such a fashion, it does not start out that way. It introduces it slowly, and it's like a roller coaster, and it takes you on a ride. Seriously, you're going to have your ups, and then you come down, and they don't leave you down there for long, and then they start bringing you back up again. And by the time you get to the end, where you have visited these dark places, you're also being pulled out of that ride's tunnel, and you're experiencing the joy and the healing that they found, and it's very cathartic. It's beautiful. The ending is very beautiful.
So why should your friends come to this play?
Oh my gosh, everybody, not just because they're my friends, everybody should see this. I was very, very young during the Vietnam War. Really didn't know anything about it. It has been such a learning experience for me. My daughters, helping me run lines at home and learn my part, would ask questions. We'd stop and talk about it. And they said, we just know there was a war, and just very little what they were told about it. So it's such a huge learning experience, that alone. But just the healing lives that this show touches. I have had so many people come up to me after the show, crying, but tears of joy, thanking me. They're emotional. It brought up some memories, but it brought up a lot of the vets were laughing because there were some funny things, and they go, "Oh my gosh, I remember that." And so the show's a roller coaster, but it ends on such a high note that you just make yourself sit through the whole ride and take it in, and one lady said, well, I didn't quite enjoy it, but I loved it.
Oh, great.
It's an experience that
Good.
that needs to be had by all.